Hey guys, Aussie Marcel here. Today I wanted to talk about Davidoff Hot Water, a spin-off of the classic men's fragrance Davidoff Cool Water. Davidoff Hot Water was introduced in 2009 by the company Davidoff. Now, they're most well known for their fragrance Cool Water and The Game. Funny thing about The Game, I actually had a bottle of that when I was at university. It was like a tiny little sampler bottle that this place in South Morang, they were handing it out. I went through it pretty quickly because I loved it so much. The bottle is actually quite good looking. It's a deep dark red with black on the sides. One thing I will say about the bottle is that in comparison to Cool Water, it is incredible. It's got such an awesome look. Now, I know that isn't the most important thing with fragrances, but in this case, it really stands out. The cap comes off easily enough. You won't be able to pick it up by the cap because it's quite loose, as you can see. I'm going to use a spray. The opening is very spicy. It's slightly pepperish. And it's got an absinthe quality to it as well. So if you like the smell of absinthe or to a lesser extent gin or licorice, this may really appeal to you. However, the opening is a little astringent as well. It has an astringency that I think a lot of people dislike. Now, one thing worth noting about hot water is that in my experience, the silage and the longevity are excellent. I've read online that some people aren't super impressed with the longevity and the silage of hot water, but in my experiences, both are pretty excellent. I've worn this on my skin several times, and I can still smell it on there 4 hours later, 5 hours later. And the best part about hot water is that the dry down is the highlight of the fragrance. The opening is a love it or hate it affair, but the middle has this patchouli quality that is quite pleasant, and the dry down is this burnt, styrexy, orangey, amberishness. It's hard to quantify. It is a unique fragrance in that way. If you're somebody that likes fresh, natural smelling scents, this may not be for you. The slightly semi-synthetic quality of the fragrance is going to be off-putting to some. The astringency is going to be off-putting to some. A lot of people are going to find the heart and the dry down luxurious, masculine, strong, dangerous. I mean, you can chuck whatever adjectives you want at it, but I think hot water has gotten a bad rap over the years since its release. You can read plenty of negative reviews online about it, but if you give it a chance, I think it's really going to surprise you. Especially if you find it for as cheap as I did, $10. $10 for this. I would have paid $40 easily. As a blind buy, I don't think it's the best fragrance in the world. But if you're a man that likes strong, dangerous fragrances, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find something better value than hot water. Davidoff Hot Water has a danger element to it, a toxic element to it, that is unlike any other fragrance I've smelled. Now, that might be off-putting to anyone that's sort of into safe fragrances. But if you're the kind of guy that wants to take chances and not smell like everyone else in the room, you can't beat hot water. This is an incredible fragrance. I recommend it. I know I'm a nobody on YouTube, but I fucking recommend this. This ran me $10 Australian, which translates to $7.55 US, 5.65 British pounds, and 620 euros. That is value. People that like basil fragrances, people that like basil in their openings, people that like patchouli in their mids, people that like that masculine, musky, amberish dry down, you're gonna be hard pressed to find anything better than this. I blind bought 2 bottles of hot water at $10 each. I figured, what have I got to lose? 20 bucks, that's nothing. And I do not regret it whatsoever. This, for the value, for the price that I paid for it, is an incredible fragrance. It might be one of my favorites. That dry down, the dry down on this is exceptional. The silage is something you want to follow. And in my experiences on my skin, the longevity is pretty nice. Upwards of 5 hours on this in terms of the longevity. There are going to be more beastly fragrances out there, but I think for $10 from a well-known brand, from a popular brand, like what more do you want out of a fragrance? So, do I recommend hot water? Absolutely. Side by side with cool water, Davidoff's cool water, hot water couldn't smell any more different. On the dry down, I honestly prefer hot water to cool water. It has an animalistic, hot, warm quality to it that I just really enjoy. Smelling them both at the same time, I can see why some people have decided to layer the two together. I saw some guy on Fragrantica talk about how he filled a bottle with a little bit of cool water and a little bit of hot water and layered them that way. They do play off of each other quite nicely, but I think their strengths are obviously going to be in wearing one of them at a time. I'm personally not a big fan of layering fragrances. I prefer to let the art speak for itself, so to speak. In all fairness though, the dry down on both cool water and hot water, they're both quite pleasant. Like, I'd happily wear either one of them, but I honestly think for autumn, winter, I would definitely go with hot water. For spring, summer, I think cool water has its place there. But as an evening fragrance, in a hot and sweaty nightclub, 12 o'clock at night, club tunes blaring out of the speakers, body heat causing the temperatures to rise, I think hot water is going to be an incredibly unique fragrance for that situation. This isn't a well-known fragrance at all. You're not gonna walk past anyone on the street that's wearing this. So if you're somebody that really wants to smell separate from everyone else, I think hot water is an incredible option for you, especially if you can get it on the cheaper side, like I did. It's not like cool water where it's completely overplayed, and don't get me wrong, I love cool water as a fragrance. I just think you will be smelling that far more often than you will with this. Another thing worth mentioning about hot water is that it doesn't smell as dated as cool water does. So that's all I've got to say about Davidoff's hot water. It's a stellar fragrance. If you can find it, I guarantee you'll be able to find it cheaper than you realize, and you're not going to smell like every other bloke in the room, So definitely pick it up if you can find it. I honestly couldn't recommend this fragrance more. It's going to be right up your alley, I promise you that. So until the next video, I'm Aussie Marcel, and I'll be catching you next time.